Hi, I'm Michał. Welcome to Tauron, where we are decarbonizing energy assets.
Michał, welcome to Enlit on the Road and thank you for having us. Tell us about Tauron, your decarbonisation goals and how you're tracking to achieve them.
Hi Pam. First of all, welcome to Silesia, the historical coal region of Poland, which is undergoing a large transition. We as Tauron are the largest energy distributor in Poland with around 50 terawatt hours of distributed energy, but also a large historically coal producer with third largest fleet in the country, large heating system operations, and then also sales to final customers with more than 30 terawatt hours of electricity sold. And we are a company which is undergoing transition, same as our region, which is also undergoing heavy transition with a lot of people switching from coal mining jobs to different industries. Our ambition is to be fully green in terms of electricity production and sales by 2040, with 100% of electricity sold to final customers coming from renewable sources. And we are undertaking actions in different fields of our industry to get to this goal. I would start with renewables, where we are building a large fleet of wind farms, where we aim to achieve by 2030 around 1.1 gigawatts of installed capacity, followed by by photovoltaics with around 1.4 gigawatt target in 2030, and we are already on a journey to achieve that. We currently have around 400 megawatts in wind. We are adding currently 160 megs to this already with assets under construction. On photovoltaic side, we also have around 200 megs which are currently under construction, and we are looking forward to increase those numbers once the market allows to achieve profitable projects and grow profitably within renewable segments. We also have a district heating transition ahead of us. This is an issue which might not be present in all of European countries, since Poland is a major district heat producer, but this is an industry which is actually a bit harder to decarbonize. We are looking for low carbon solutions based on gas, but also bio-based solutions and power to heat with the use of green electricity to start providing low carbon or decarbonized heat to our customers by 2030 is our goal.
How is Tauron balancing the need to grow while decarbonising and avoiding stranded assets?
I think in our case, what's really important is that we still have coal power plants within our group. We used to have coal mines recently, but we were able to divest them to the state treasury to decarbonize from actual coal mining operations. But we still have quite a few coal mines that we are currently trying to carve out and divest. We are in the process of talks to the government for them to acquire our generation fleet. And this is a base case which we are hoping to achieve within the next year or two. And I think from an energy security point of view, the government sees the need to still keep those assets for a certain period of time. But I mean, from the point of view of our financing institutions and achieving our strategy, carving them out of Tauron is a solution that would be ideal for us. But we also have a backup plan. In case it doesn't happen, we are preparing to actually shut down some of those plants. Some of them were opened in the 70s or 80s, so they are already past their technical lifetime, which was originally planned. And they are supported from our capacity market mechanism by the end of 2025. There are some discussions ongoing whether the mechanism should be extended. From the point of view of energy security of the country, it might be a great solution to extend it by further 2 or 3 years, but it doesn't seem possible to extend it farther, looking at EU regulations and the general policy trends that we see on coal assets. So in case the carve-out doesn't happen, we are preparing to shut down some of those operations and transform the sites after those locations to new investments. And here we have a larger range of options that we are considering, including storage options, PV, but also waste-based solutions such as RDF combustion plants or MSW combustion plants, but also looking farther to electrolyzers or SMRs once those technologies are ready. Those sites are located in industrial regions, also having great connection capacity available once those plants would be shut. So we really want to make use of those locations and create jobs, at least for some of the people who are employed at those sites.
Michał, if you think about the activities that Tauron is engaged with, are there any specific projects that stand out to you as really representing your decarbonisation journey?
Yes, I think when we look at this, first of all, our investments in renewables, so new capacity that we add to the mix is something which is, especially from our CapEx standpoint, an important part of the journey. We are also building up quite a large storage pipeline in terms of electricity storage that would use actually similar grid connections and similar locations that our power plants are currently using. Plus, I would say our conversion projects for the heating segment, where we are replacing coal with new fuels, which significantly decrease the CO2 footprint of locations that we have currently in Tauron.
In terms of future investments and focus, are there specific solutions or technologies that Tauron is focused on?
So I would say, as I partially mentioned, wind is a great source of electricity, and especially when we look at the profile of our final customers who we are selling to, the 30 terawatt hours that I mentioned, it fits nicely into the profile of consumption of our customers. Customers are installing PV themselves, I would say, so when we look at the kind of residual load that they are having, wind fits much better into their needs and their portfolio. So this is surely a kind of go-to technology for the first years that we are seeing. But the supply of wind projects in Poland is limited. So we are really competing heavily for every wind location and asset that we have. The regulation is going in a better direction. It's been really tight on new wind developments in the last years, but it seems to be going, I would say, in the liberalization direction. So we might be seeing more wind coming to the mix in the next years. So this is a kind of go-to technology now. When we look to the future, storage seems to be the next big thing which would help our system to decarbonize. We are seeing the same problems as we see across all European markets in terms of hourly pricing, with the duck curve effect kicking in to a greater extent every year. We also have some situations where PV gets disconnected from the grid point of view, so not even getting the low price it would be getting from the market, but being physically disconnected due to problems with grid stabilization. So storage could solve a lot of problems, both for the grid but also for PV producers, and enable this technology to look better. Right now we don't have too much of storage capacity installed in the whole system, but it seems that it will be the next big thing which will come online and revolutionize the way the system operates, and we are also part of that. And then looking forward and looking farther beyond, I would say we are also interested in SMR projects, which seem to be the solution for the future, especially when we consider also heating capabilities. But this is still a technology which needs some further development and full licensing once it's operational. And we also have some projects in the pipeline on hydrogen side. We believe that hydrogen might be a great solution in the future. The big question marks are whether import will have a parity against local production. And then secondly, whether power producers should be the parties who will be actually first in this game, because it seems that might not be economical for district heating purposes. It seems that transport will be the first go-to market. So we have the supply side of things, meaning renewables. The question is if we should also have the hydrogen piece, or if those would be different types of players who will first play on the import side and hydrogen side itself. But we believe it might be also the next market which could help us to further decarbonize our mix.
What I hear you saying is that there's still a lot of work to do, but Poland has come a long way on its decarbonisation journey, and it's getting a lot right. What do you think are the key lessons that Poland has to share with other coal-reliant countries?
Well, I think what's really important is the approach to just transition, especially for the regions, so that there is a social acceptance to the transformation, meaning supporting the areas where historically the industry and coal was heavily present, and making sure that those regions and that those people also benefit from the transition itself. Has been a lot of a struggle in the past, especially with coal mine closures, which are often supporting local communities and are the only large employer in a given region. So I think getting this right and providing options to the people who are affected by the transition is a really important piece of this job. I think regulatory-wise, it's also important to be, I would say, reasonable on the subsidies. We've had a PV boom in Poland. We were the third largest growing market in Europe for 1 or 2 years. But then, I mean, there was a certain pickup. Then the subsidies stopped, which created some problems in the market for the suppliers. So I think it's important to have certain subsidies in place, but also it's also important not to overscale them, to ensure a more smooth growth curve, especially when it comes to new technologies such as PV, wind, or batteries. And I think it's important to be also regulatory consistent, transparent, and stable. I think we have quite some regulatory developments in Poland on the offshore side. There are quite some sites which are developed. We have some shares in one of those sites. And getting the regulation right is really important for the developers and for stability of business to get on the right track. I think where Poland also stands out is distribution to a certain extent. I think we have relatively favorable conditions, especially now when it comes to grid investments. And grid is also a critical part of energy transition, with a lot of capex to be spent on strengthening the grid and enabling it to handle flows going both up the grid and down the grid. And here I think we have relatively favorable conditions in Poland, including a reinvestment premium to weighted average cost of capital if we are able to spend more on adjusting the grid to the current needs. So I think this is something which also other countries could benefit from, if they are to actually have the infrastructure to pursue the transition. If you want to build the sources, you need to have the network, and getting the right conditions for network investments and long-term stability in terms of returns is also a critical piece to enable that.
You touched briefly there on investment, which is a good segue into my final question. How is Poland collaborating with the European Union to drive decarbonisation?
I think there's been quite a lot of progress in the recent months and year. I think over the years we're collaborating quite heavily on, first of all, getting in some plans on shutdown of coal assets. Those require heavy subsidies, which were agreed in a dialogue with the European Commission, enabling us to support the region and support the companies who will be shutting down coal operations. So there's been quite some good collaboration on that in the past. I think in the last months there are also quite some information around our national recovery plan, which is supposed to be a great source of funding for our future investments into renewables. So I think getting those money spent and having final approvals on how it will be distributed will be really important. Seems it would be a large source of financing for our DSO business, but also might create opportunities to accelerate heat decarbonisation in our district heating piece. So I think those funds are important, and it's also important for us to collaborate on regulations, especially relating to new developments of renewables. I know that European Commission is pushing really hard to accelerate those procedures and make them much easier than they are currently for us in the local regulation. I think it's critical for us to, in this dialogue, so that we have a certain understanding from the EU side, that we have a different starting point when it comes to the share of coal that we have in the mix, which makes the whole net zero challenge I would say, more challenging. We as a company believe that we can still decarbonize relatively fast compared to our peers, but as a country we'll need probably more understanding and more support to get those the decarbonization underway to the extent that we would like. We also have the district heating angle, which might not be present in half of the European countries and might not be present to the extent that we have in the vast majority of them. Let's not forget that it's a heavy emitting sector, which is also, I would say, directly affecting final customers, because most of the volume is actually consumed by individuals, and this sector will really need heavy support to decarbonize. So even though it might seem a bit under the radar sometimes for some of the EU countries, it's important that we also that we are supported on this journey. So having support and stable regulations, and then enough funding to enable us to catch up on certain things which are resulting from our past. The fact that we don't have a nuclear plant, which was historically there, it's a kind of, and that we had basically almost only coal in the mix starting from the 90s, I would say, is a bit of a different starting point compared to the other countries. We are also, I would say, historically a low-income country, looking at EU standards, maybe now approaching mid-income. So I would say we have a different standpoint, and we really want to decarbonize. And I think as a society, we are really interested in getting to the net zero targets as soon as possible, but we also need to take into account the economics and try to find mechanisms which would enable us to do it at a scale which would be socially acceptable and at a cost which would be borne by the society.
Michał, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for sharing your insights.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
For more insights, join the Enlit community.